I'm taking you out of the scrub below, sparking plateaus where the cold wind blows. One step higher every week we go, turning little wins into more 5-0.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Legacy Scrublands podcast, the podcast that takes you out of scrub lows, past plateaus, and into more 5-0s each week. I'm your host, Kyle, and with me is the man that has learned to earn death and knows that good help is hard to dig up. It is our resident spike on the mic, Adam. Adam, what's going on, man?
Welcome, anyone. No, it's great to be back. I'm excited to talk about my all-time favorite topic, Reanimator.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. So, I threw a couple at you. Did you pick up on any of those?
I saw a little
reminder text,
a little graveyard, a little texture right there.
Okay.
I like it.
All right, perfect. So this flavor text for two of your favorite cards, I believe it is the Reanimate, which is you will learn to earn death, and then the other one is yes, and then the other flavor text is for Shallow Grave, which is good help is hard to dig up. So I wasn't sure if you would.
I don't think I've ever actually read that. I'm so weird. I never read that.
No, I mean that's the least important part of the card, I'm sure. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting thing. I was trying to look through your deck and was like, the flavor text on these cards are pretty sweet. But anyway, yeah, excited to jump in and talk about Reanimate today. Before we jump in to our main topic of getting really sweaty, really spiky, let's jump into our filthy casual question of the week. If you think you're ready,
Let's do it. I'm afraid, honestly, but I'm excited.
This one's an easy one. I'm taking it easy on this week. All
All right.
right. So the question is, what is a fictional food that you wish were real? What is a food from like fantasy fiction, any type of media that's not real that you wish were?
Easy.
Yeah, it does not get. They get harder every week from here on.
Oh my gosh, so probably has to be something from Avatar: The Last Airbender. All right, so I think it would have to be something like maybe the famous cabbages from the guy with the cart, or
Absolutely.
the fire flakes. Maybe my wife, like, I get her. She loves spicy foods. Maybe I'll take some of that too, and I can share it with her. But definitely the cabbages.
The cabbages. I like that, man. That's a solid answer.
Thanks.
I'm going sensu bean. So I don't know if any of our listeners
Dragon
are
Ball Z.
old.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't know if any of our fans are Dragon Ball Z like from back in the day. But yeah, man, sensu bean. If I can have like
Give you a quick
one
power
bean,
up, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Like I'm completely healed. And then I've heard another one. Like somebody else was. They mentioned I forget the name of it, but if you're like a Lord of the Rings fan, it's like a bread where it's like I guess if you take a bite of bread, it's like fills you up like it's a full meal. I forget what that's called, but I thought that was a really interesting answer as well. It just God, it's helped me with my diet so much. I just take like one bite and I don't have to. You know what I mean? So.
No, I love it.
Anyway,
Love it.
yeah. Anyway, that is our filthy casual question. If you guys have one that you guys would like to ask our spikes, let us know in our email and we'll get it read on the show. So anyway, with our filthy casual question out of the way, let's jump in and talk some Reanimator. Let's talk about bringing some stuff back from the graveyard. But so Adam, this is your favorite deck. And I understand you've got some rather impressive finishes with Reanimator. Can you tell us like how long you've been playing the deck and like what are some of your proudest moments of reanimating things?
Sure. No, yeah, it has been a favorite of mine for probably 2.5 years now. I still remember back in the day where my friends used to make fun of me just for playing Reanimator because I'm such a what's the right way to say this? Like technical kind of player. Like I like to really think about all my lines. And then when I said I want to try Reanimator, like that's the most A to B combo deck that you could actually do. Why would you want to like waste your potential doing that? I'm like, I'm excited. It looks so cool. It's just free wins. And so they're like, you'll try it for like 3 weeks and then, you'll give up on it. I did not. I absolutely fell in love with the deck. I've been playing it almost every single week for the past 2.5 years, and it is truly a passion of mine. And hopefully you will feel some of that passion kind of going through me in this episode. But yeah, so some things that kind of, best memories of. So was it 2 years ago? I got top 64 at Eternal Weekend 2024. And then last year, I got, unfortunately, ninth place. I was one away from being top 8 of Eternal Weekend 2025. And so this year, this is the year. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes,
like, this is our
yes.
time. So this year, we're all going to either fly or drive down to Pittsburgh. We're going to have another great session, and let's get top 8, you know?
Yeah.
And then the last
Oh
thing
yeah, man, that's awesome.
yeah. And then the last is if you ever are on Friday or Saturday nights, that you will find me on the MTGO grind. And so the past 2 months, here is my lucky streak. So I got 6th 2 nights ago. Then the past week was 4th, then 3rd, then 2nd, 6th. And unfortunately, this was the worst one for the past 2 months, is 12th place. Then I got 1st, and then the last one before that was 3rd. So in the past 2 months, it has just been the world of Reanimator. Like, it is our dream world where everybody thought that, you know, you could take out your sideboard hate, and, you know, just because of the Oops All Spells deck got kind of nerfed, so everybody started taking out their graveyard deck or graveyard hate. Oh yeah, we shining the past 2 months. It's been great.
Yeah, dude, that's that is awesome. When your worst finish is 12th, and I'm like, dude, I would take that in a heartbeat. You're like, hey, wow, give me $50 and you'll get 12th in this competition. I'm like, hell yeah, dude, I'll give you more. So, dude, that is really awesome, very impressive. The ninth place is, it is incredibly impressive, man. Like, so I know that probably sounds rough of ninth place, but dude, that is still such an amazing
I'm
accomplishment.
definitely, you know, my friends and I tested a lot, so we're all proud of, you know, everything we put in. What's funny too is the year before, my one of my really good friends, Daniel, he also got ninth place the year before. So now we're
Oh
just
my
have this
God.
track record of Ohioans just getting ninth place and just being very sad, you know. Like, but it's okay. We had a great time.
Yeah, well, I'm very sad. I would again take that in a heartbeat. So, but hey, that's all right. You're gonna win it this year, so we
Let's
good.
go.
But
Let's do it.
all right, so with some of those accolades out of the way of understanding that this dude is clearly a reanimator master, give us your kind of breakdown of what this deck is trying to do.
Awesome. So yeah, it is a very upfront, a very simple deck. The goal is you put a big creature into the graveyard, and then part B is you reanimate. And there's 3 different spells that can help do that. So again, there's the reanimate, there is Shallow Grave, which is a new card that I've been I've been pushing a lot the past 2 years. It's my favorite. It's one of my all-time favorite reanimation cards. And then the last one is Animate Dead. So 3 very, very powerful cards. The other portions deck, let's go into that a little bit. So there's the ways to get your cards into the graveyard. So if you play the red version, you have Faithless Looting. So I say Faithless Looting is one of the best methods to get your creatures inside the graveyard. And a new one, again, that is starting to pop up a little bit more, and I've been loving. I was against it at first, but then I started trying it, and I was like, wow, this is actually one of the best. Collective Brutality. Do you know how good it feels to say, hey, I'm going to, you know, look at your hand. I'm going to make sure that the coast is clear. Oh, at the same time, I'm throwing the creature into my graveyard. It is the best feeling you could get. So, you know, huge excitement for that. And there's 2 other methods to put in a graveyard. One is very, very simple. If you just kind of target yourself with Thoughtseize or Cabal Therapy, or Unmask, right? You look at your own hand and you discard it. Not great value, right? But this deck is not the 1-for-1 deck, right? We're not trying to do that. We're trying to cheat things in. And the last method that a lot of people are surprised about is the classic, you're on the draw, your opponents say, okay, your turn. And then you say, yep, cleanup step. And they give you that questionable face. And then you throw a Gristle Brain in the graveyard. It is one of my favorite looks to give people, or like kind of watching them interacting. Because you know it's trouble. You know the next turn is coming back, and they're doomed. So it's very fun. And then
Absolutely. The
yeah.
manaless dredge take of like no lands needed. Just yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then like I said, the last big section of the deck is the discard spells. I've been getting a lot of, I don't want to say hate, but more like confusion of why I run Cabal Therapy inside my 60 instead of Thoughtseize. You're like, wait, but Thoughtseize, you could look at their hand and you get you get an opportunity to see everything, and you get to pick the one that's worse for them. Well, that's great. But with Cabal Therapy, there's actually a lot more pros. One is if you already know your opponent's deck inside and out, which you should do, by the way, if you're going to a big tournament, you know what cards you're actually afraid of. And for each of the deck, there's usually only one specific card. So let me go through a few of these. So it's Containment Priest. This is usually for game 2. But for main decks, all you really have to worry about is Kha'Zix Command, Endurance, maybe if it's a green deck, and then Force of Will and Daze. Like those are kind of the cards you have to worry about. So if you're going against a white deck, boom, Containment Priest. And again, most decks don't even run that. Or maybe Swords of Plowshare, but honestly, you don't care. That card, once your creature hits the battlefield, it's over. 9 times out of 10, the game is over. And then if you see a forest, I'm going to name Endurance. If you see blue, you name Force of Will. And if you see Colorless Tron, you name Kha'Zix Command. It's that easy.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, I appreciate that breakdown. Lots of interesting things that I want to dive into a little bit more. So thank you for kind of the simple breakdown of, hey, this strategy, again, it sounds kind of easy. I put a giant monster into the graveyard and I bring it back from the graveyard and I kill my opponent. But like you said, each of these pieces in this deck, cog in the wheel, perfect machine to just kind of keep going and making sure that you're as consistent as possible. Yeah, one of the things I want to talk about real fast before we jump into it is, if you think back, like I know you had a lot of success last Eternal Weekend. That Reanimator deck was a little different than the version that you're running right now, correct? So this was
Absolutely.
the way that I remember it, and this was for a long time, any podcast that you would listen to, they would tell you about how Entomb was a nightmare. Like this card had to go. And before that, they were like, this card Grief, it is broken. It needs to go. And then from my understanding is like once these two, and if you've been playing Legacy for a little while, you'll recognize those two card names are now found on the ban list, right? So when those first happened, a lot of people were like, okay, well, Wizards does not want Reanimator to be a deck. So what is your take on the fact that people once wrote this deck off and now the fact that it has a lot of success, not only from like you just went down the list of every challenge over the past month and you've had quite a bit of success, but even our buddy Jamie, shout out to Bips, he told us about how Eco Baronin was going down his Meta Monday thing, his like Meta Monday recap, and how Reanimator has right now finished with the most top 8. So what's your take on just the fact that it's gotten hit a couple times, people kind of wrote it off, and now it's arguably the most powerful combo deck in the meta?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So let's go back. It's been about 2 years now, maybe a year and a half. So Grief was a very powerful spell that's Cabal Therapy is now taking its place. So if you're not familiar with Grief, right, you can exile a black card from your hand, and you get to see the opponent's hand, and it's a creature, which is extremely powerful. You're able to reanimate it again if you need to keep kind of going through this, and you basically have 8 unmask effects. It was insane. It was a lot of fun, and all you had to do is you get a Gristlebrand, you draw 14 cards, and you completely tear apart the opponent's hand turn 1. Very, very. If you've never done it, you should go back and try it. Like, just try it with yourself. It's a blast to do. So I don't know. I thought banning that card did not make sense. In Modern, yes, I thought Grief was a very necessary ban in Modern. But Legacy, there was like 2 decks that actually ran it, and so I don't know. I didn't agree, but it didn't hurt the deck that much because you still got Cabal Therapy. You got to play Cabal Therapy, which you could argue it's even better. So that one I was okay with. I might have lost like $100 worth of value of my nice Griefs that I just bought. The worst part is when I remember this day vividly. I was in my bed laying down, super excited to see either like a Tameo ban, the One Ring ban that everybody thought. No. I woke up and it was Entomb and the Nadu ban. Both those decks, I just kind of hurt just me emotionally. I was like, oh my gosh, I just built this. But the Entombs, I just purchased the super fancy
no.
the OG foil of Entomb. They're about $350 to $400 a pop. I can
Oh
just see the
no!
fan. So
Oh my!
$1,000 just immediately gone. And I was the most upset for like since that was probably the most I've been upset in the past 5 years. It was bad.
Understandably so. I mean, like, yeah, if I just dropped that much money and then just again a beloved card from your favorite deck, like, yeah, I'd be in a bad mood. I'd be in a terrible mood for a
yeah.
month.
I don't think anybody in Kansas saw me for 2 weeks. I was like, no, I'm not playing Magic. We're done here for a hot minute until we get like this situated. So, I try to be resilient and I was like, what can we mess with? So I messed with you probably saw me. If you played me week by week, you saw me playing the craziest cards. I played Putrid Imp, which is a hot card, by the way. It was like super fun. If you're not familiar, it's a 1/1. You can discard a card to give it flying, and then it has threshold. If you have, so again, 7 more cards in your graveyard, it gets +1/+1 and cannot block. It is a terrible card, like absolutely terrible. But that was the best method to kind of put a creature into the graveyard on turn 1. So, it was fine. And then I started going to like, okay, well, let me try the blue black version. Let me see if I can like slow it down. I could put some good blue. I could put Force of Will in. I could put Dazes in, Brainstorm, and then like Surveil the top card. I tried it. It was just not. I did medium, right? I didn't do terrible, but I didn't do great. I wasn't winning a lot. And then, like I said, I think after the Entomb ban, excuse me, not Entomb ban. After they banned the Oops deck, I was like, all right, I think this is our time. I think everybody's going to start getting away from the graveyard. And I added Collective Brutality. And oh my gosh, it has just been on fire ever since. Like I said, I've been telling everybody that they should pick it up. It's a very simple deck. It's a very easy one to get into. And it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to make your opponents cry. It's great.
Yeah, I remember messaging you what it was like last week, and I just finished the league. I'm like, why did I just play 3 Reanimator decks? Please stop telling people about, you know what I mean? It just
And you're
so,
welcome.
yeah, absolutely. So no, it's been showing up quite a bit more. So all of the people back in the day that were like, hey, Grief is gone, decks unplayable, Entomb is gone, decks unplayable. Well, still give me a hard time in 2026. Still give me a hard time in this economy. So I don't know how they're doing it, but yeah, man. So I mean, hey, I am glad that you're still rocking it, even though I can imagine the Entomb hit, especially when you're looking at the really pretty Entombs that you put together.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure, I'm still glad though that you're here
They are
rocking it and
up
bringing
for
people back.
sale, by the way. Last night I had some time. I was like, you know what? Well, I was thinking about this deck. I was like, I have them just sitting in my binder. They are on sale on Facebook Marketplace. Message me if you're interested, man.
Here you go. Hit them up. All right, man. Well, I appreciate the kind of like walk down memory lane of kind of thinking, how does this deck evolved, and taking it from that blue black tempo reanimator that we all loved. I will be honest, I'm so glad that deck is not around anymore. That deck is so good, but yeah, I mean, but it's still like still clearly a very good deck. So glad that we were able to bring it down a peg, but it's still crushing everybody. So, well, with that, let's kind of talk about what is your approach in as a reanimator player, right? You sit down and you kind of gave us an awesome breakdown of like what you're thinking when you see what your opponent's turn 1 is, right? Or if you kind of, let's say that you've peeked what they're doing, or you were able to find their account, looking them up real quick before the game, you kind of have an idea. But what is your strategy or your approach in a game 1? Maybe you know what your opponent's on, maybe you don't. What does the ideal starting hand look like for you? And then, I got a kind of a maybe a little bit more specific question I want to ask about game 1.
Sure.
But can you give us at least maybe just the quick, like, what's the hand that we're looking for?
Yeah,
What's
no.
our
So
strategy?
when I think about Reanimator, I think we're playing 2 different games, and the first is game 1, which is basically go as fast as you can, and then there's game 2 and 3 where you're just trying to dodge all their hate. So again, let's focus on game 1.
Yeah, let's
So
focus game one.
yeah, so what I do to start is if I'm playing MTGO, I am looking up the player. It is public information. You guys are all. I encourage everybody to. They do it to me all the time, by the way, too. It's not just me. Look up who you're playing against, and you can see like, okay, if they have played, blue black tempo every single week, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be playing blue black tempo again. If they play, a variety of different decks, if you're a Jamie of the world, then I try just to be an open mind of what they could play. If they are playing a very fast deck, let's just say it is a Tron deck where they want to also go as fast as possible to lock me out, I am trying to make sure I can do it on turn 1 or turn 2 if I have a discard spell. So that's like, again, just going as fast as possible. If I know I'm going against a blue deck, I actually can slow down a lot. One of the key things I think people kind of mistake on game 1 is they think that they have to rush to against blue decks. Just let them, they're going to try to 2-for-1 you all the time. So in the sense that they're going to force of will your reanimate spell. So step 1 is just get the creature in the graveyard. It's generally very easy if you're on the draw. Again, you can just go to cleanup step, discard the card. If not, you can just Faithless Looting. It feels terrible to force of will a Faithless Looting because in 3 turns or two more turns, it's coming back and you can do it again. So generally, people are not in favor of force of willing the Faithless Looting. But again, if you're going against that, then you just play it nice and slow, and you can take as much time as you want until there's a threat on board. If there is no threat, there is zero reason for you to go off. Just keep waiting until you get the perfect cards and say, okay, I'm going to Cabal Therapy. That's cool. Cabal Therapy again. All right, great. Now I'm going to reanimate, and then just keep forcing these cards down the opponent's throat, and they can't handle it all. They just don't have enough cards in their hand. So I think that's probably the easiest of like the two, polarizations of what kind of decks, right? It's the fast combo decks you're going against, or the slower decks that have blue in them.
Right, and I guess so. From that game 1 approach, I will say, not that I am slinging too many blue spells, but from my understanding, it is one of those things where it's like, we want to try to counter ways that you get monsters into the graveyard if you're looking from a game 1 approach, right? So to your point, it does feel very bad to counter the Faithless Looting. In your opinion, though, like they probably should be 2-for-1ing themselves on that.
There's a lot of context on the opponent's hand, and you have to be consistent. So if you're saying I'm going to prevent them from putting things into the graveyard, that is what your game plan is, and that's all you are going to counter. You can't, half-ass it and say, all right, I'm going to counter the first 2 discard spells, and then, okay, now you know what? Now I'm going to switch, and I'm just going to counter the reanimation spells. No, you got to stay full force and just counter the 1 types of spells, and that's how you actually get around it.
Okay. No, that is insightful. I appreciate that.
Of course. And you know what? I forgot about your deck. Any white decks, it's a buy round one. I'm sorry, Kyle. It's literally a buy if they don't have force of will or they can't go faster than me. It is the easiest thing. And I want to highlight that too. Reanimator decks, it's about a 75 to 80% win rate on game 1. It is cake. It is the easiest thing you could do. Like I said, the hardest part is if your opponent just goes off faster or they just keep forcing you and have a threat.
Yeah, we've played several times and just turn 1 Aether Vial go, and you're just like, nice cool. Aether Vial idiot. Yeah, nice Aether Vial idiot. Go ahead and pick that up. We're done here. No, I do think that is interesting from like the game 1 approach of, especially like depending on what you're playing, the tempo in which you get to try to reanimate, or like your strategy can kind of slow down or speed up depending on what you're playing. And if you're playing me, it doesn't matter. So that's funny.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. One question that I did want to ask, as far as, because I'm not a reanimator player, you do have a lot of cool cards that say, like, I've played plenty of these cards, and it says, like, so let me read Cabal Therapy. It says, choose a non-land card name. Target player reveals their hand and discards all cards with that name. Now, when I have that in my hand, or if I have a Thoughtseize in my hands, that always says I'm going to name the best card in my opponent's deck, and I'm going to just try to take their thing, right? One of the things that I've noticed watching you play, or playing against you, is sometimes that is turned on against yourself. You're like, like you'll say Cabal Therapy, and I go to like tip my hand over, and you're like, don't even, Kyle, you're playing white cards. I don't care. It's just I'm gonna pick myself. So if somebody maybe picking this deck up the first time and recognizing like, hey, I'm gonna unmask myself, what's the breakdown of when am I going to be turning that against myself and saying I don't care about what they're doing, or you know what, I need to go fast, I'm gonna just unmask myself or Cabal Therapy
Yeah.
myself, versus checking to see if the coast is clear. You know, what's that breakdown, or like how do you decide that?
Sure. No, really good question. I think for me, it's again what your opponent's doing. If I know that they are on a, you're a white deck, if they're on a, like they show a mountain, let's just say they're burn, or even Tron, if they should play a Tron lane, that's probably one that's more popular today. I know immediately I can target myself. It's a very fast method to kind of get a creature in the graveyard. So you can Dark Ritual, and then you can Cabal Therapy, target yourself, and immediately reanimate without having any concern. If I am going against a blue deck, if they play an island, I am not doing that. Very rarely. So there might be sometimes I do it if I need to, but very rarely I'm going to try to, like I think unmask. I'm not going to 3-for-1 myself a lot of times because they're trying to just hop that. Like the worst case is I unmask target myself and they say Force of Will. I go, oh my gosh, like I just lost so much value there,
Right,
and I have to do
right.
it again. I'd rather just like go to like again, go to 8 cards and go to cleanup
And then
against a blue
discard.
deck, and then
Yeah.
discard. Because then the following turn, I still have that discard spell. I'm just going to keep looking at your hand until the coast is clear, and then I reanimate.
Okay. No, that's very fair. So just kind of understanding what you're
See
playing
what
against
lands.
and whether.
That's the easiest. Just look at the
Yeah.
lands. Blue is no go for targeting yourself. Non-blue, you're good to target yourself.
Okay. That's fair. I like that. Keep that
Easy
simple.
enough, right?
Keep it simple, right? All right. So with game one, now you've got the 75-80% win rate on game one, which means here we are game two, and we are going to be bringing in hate to try to make sure that you're not doing the broken thing, right? So what is some of the hate that you would see? Like so I guess to say, like, if we have some people, some listeners, right, and they have a reanimator in their meta, what are the cards that they should be packing in their sideboard that you think gives the reanimator player the most trouble? Like what's the biggest things that we need? I know that you can name plenty of pieces of hate. You kind of named some already with like the endurance and whatnot, but
Yeah.
what's the, like, if I'm specifically, I know Adam's showing up, all right, and at this point I've got freaking 2 other reanimator players at this point. So like, what do I need to be packing? Can you give me a
Sure. So
breakdown?
yeah, so this is where I think, like I said, as you as like a Death and Taxes or a white deck, your weakest is game one, but man, game 2 and 3 is really hard for me because Containment Priest. Containment Priest is one of the most obnoxious cards for me to handle for probably 2 reasons. One, it's a very quick, on turn 2, you're going to be casting it. In addition, it stops my backup plan, which we'll go over probably in a little bit, and that's show and tell. I already assume everybody's going to have 4 Ley Line of the Void in their in their deck. So that's my assumption. I'm not going to be playing my graveyard games 2 and 3. But guess what? White decks, they say, hey, Containment Priest, and I get pissed. I get so pissed when I see that card because I only have, now just Collective Brutality is basically my only way to deal with it today. It's and then before I even had Collective Brutality, I would just scoop. I'm just like, yeah, I can't do anything. You're just gonna smack me down
Okay.
for 10 turns. So that's definitely the biggest one. And the second one that like I said, that I see a lot is Leyline of the Void. I think that card just makes the game 10 times harder for myself, but it's something I'm always ready for. I want to give a little insight to, I think, the opponents, because maybe some players aren't very interested in playing the deck, but they're always interested in how do I beat the deck. So let me give you a quick few tips to kind of leave you off and be like, all right, this is how I'm going to beat Adam next week at my FNM. So what I'd recommend to all you other players is, again, it's mostly game 2 and 3. Game 1, no offense, just assume that it's probably not going to go your way, and if you do win, awesome. You probably won the match without even thinking. But game 2 and 3, like, just imagine I am not that fast game 2 and 3. And I think everybody assumes they're going to be dead turn 1. and they have to have like a force of will in their hand turn one, or it's over. That's not true. You know, I rarely go off turn one games 2 and 3. So if you have a ponder and nothing else, that's fine. Just use your ponder, you know, sculpt your deck or sculpt your hand perfectly, and then like you can search for that, you know, for that spell. Especially if you have like a Tameo. I'm not gonna names, but somebody said Tameo was a a bad card against me. Not true. Tameo is an insane card. It is, if you can land that turn one, I am screwed. It is so good against me, and you just holding that up and kind of protecting the queen. You should 100% do that. So I would say those two are the biggest things if you're playing a blue deck. If you're not playing a blue deck, you just got to go fast. If you can't go fast or you can't disrupt me enough, the game's over.
Okay. And so as we go into like your mindset and it changing from, you kind of mentioned like game one, I kind of got to go fast. And you kind of just mentioned too, you have a little bit of a pivot game 2 and 3 with going into show and tell, which goddamn, like we have so many of those too. Like our whole, like it's just like, hey, I need some giant monsters on the field and I don't want to have to pay for them. I get it.
It's
Yeah,
so fun.
It's dude, from the other side of the table, it's so fun. I get it. As I just get smashed by all these giant monsters. Well, okay, so with games 2 and 3, you slow down. We change the mentality. We maybe don't rely on the graveyard as much. One of the things that I'm kind of curious is you go from essentially a show and tell, or going from a reanimator deck to kind of a show and tell that you can still reanimate. Like, what are you taking out? Like, so what should I be thinking? Like, hey, he doesn't have these because he doesn't care about the graveyard as much. Or is it one of those things where it's like, hey, I'll take whichever comes up if you're not playing the ley line? So give me a breakdown that way.
So what I do is it depends on the matchup. If it is a blue deck, which again, 60% of the meta, I am going to be removing all of my Dark Ritual, my Mana Ramp, so Lotus Petals, because I don't want to be 2 for 1-ing, 3 for 1-ing myself, and then just feeling really sad. And what happens is that the game goes much longer. And if you kept those in, what you see is at the end, you're like, oh, I have 5 lands and I have, 3 Dark Rituals in my hand and nothing else to do with it. It doesn't feel good. So what I do for those kind of matchups is I bring in, obviously, the show and tells. If it's against a blue deck, I have a few more Thoughtseize, like discard spells. Those are generally very good against the blue decks. And then the last one is very dependent on the exact deck. Dolphy Voidwalker. So Dolphy Voidwalker is very good in the sense that it can steal not only is it a clock that they have to deal with, you also get to steal their force of wills, or you get to steal their big creatures. So in a perfect world, like against show and tell decks, like is it show and tell? It is so fun just to say, oh, here's Dolphy Voidwalker. Yeah, let me look at your hand real quick. Oh, you have an Emrakul? Yeah, let me just take that from your hand real quick. And then you cast your own Emrakul. It is really fun to do. So that's where Dolphy, I really enjoy Dolphy. That's where you probably see a lot of differences between my version versus others. It gives me a few advantages against mirror decks and those other big creature decks. If you're going against if you need to go fast still, so again, if you're going against combo, you need to keep in the mana ramp, because it's not about, going through hate. You are going through as like you're just trying to race. And so that's where you keep those in, and you might cut like other Thoughtseize spells. Again, depends on the deck, but I would probably cut the Cabal Therapies or Thoughtseize spells if I just need to go as fast as possible and do the very A to B thing. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest upset. And if you're playing against artifact decks, you have Meltdown. Meltdown is so good, and same with Null Rod. And so those are the ones that come in to kind of for replacement.
That's awesome. No, that is really cool, and something that like I had to learn the hard way after playing you a couple of times. I'm like, oh, check out this sick rest in peace. Check out this sick Graph Digger's Cage, and you're like show and tell. I'm like, God damn it, dude!
You can't do it if you don't have Containment Priest. There's nothing you can do. The game is over.
Brother, I bought 5 Containment Priests right after that game. Just I know I can only have 4, but just in case something happens to one of them, I'm
they don't
always
deck check at FNMs, right? how many can you put in before they start looking?
Yeah, for sure. Well, all right. So one of the things, and you kind of gave a really cool breakdown of like, when I'm playing this, I do this, right? Which is, I think, an awesome thing. And one of the things that you probably need to do as a combo player, right? It's to, like, if you're going to be a combo specialist, you need to know, what is my opponent doing and how do I kind of thread the needle through their stuff. One of the things that I'm kind of curious with is, like, I will look at, are you familiar with like Metamage? Do you ever look at that?
I have not. No.
Okay. So Metamage, it's over on Blue Sky. Basically, it's just kind of like a thing. It'll give a grid of some of the top decks, right? And I always love to look at Death and Taxes and see, like, okay, how is this deck performing against different decks in the meta? And it's kind of telling me something that I already know of, like, hey, here's a really good matchup. We're doing pretty well against certain tempo,
I have
right?
seen it. Yes, I know. What you're
Okay,
talking
so
about.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. So what I'm kind of curious is, from the Reanimator standpoint, right? Like, if we get, let's say we're jumping into a challenge on a Friday night, right? What are like a couple of the decks that we're like, man, I hope I run into 5 or 6 rounds of XYZ. And what are the matchups where, like, man, we're definitely dogs here, and if we can dodge this, I would love to not
Yeah.
see any of this. Can you give me a, like, kind of a quick breakdown of the goods and the bads?
Sure. So I would say the best deck you want to go against is Show and Tell. It it is so easy, especially if your opponent
Makes
doesn't
sense,
know.
right?
Especially if they don't know what you're like, who you are. They don't know, and they just go like turn 1 or turn 2 Show and Tell. Wow, like cool. Let me just throw my Atraxa while they throw their Emrakul. Let's see what happens. I would say that one again is probably like an 80% win rate for Show and Tell, or excuse me, for my deck versus Show and Tell. It is very very fun. It's obviously it's going to be a very easy matchup. In addition, anything that doesn't have blue, if it's just like a white deck, like I said, Death and Taxes, game 1 is just it's essentially a buy, and then you just got to work for game 2 and 3.
We get
Yeah,
it.
right. Yeah, and then probably the last one is the Is It Delver. Again, we were play testing this a lot. Shout out to all my boys who came out last Friday. But it was, I think it was 100% win rate after some games. It just felt unbeatable because every time I was on the draw, just pitch a creature, and then he's like, I'm too slow to do anything when you just do that, because I can reanimate. Now let's doing the flip side. Which ones am I hating to see? For me, it's the fast combo decks with blue. So which ones are those? Doomsday is a
Yep.
very very difficult matchup. It's they are a little bit slower than me usually. They can play as fast if they just want to go blind. Like, yeah, I'm just going. But like, they can daze me, they can force a will me depending on what version they're on, and it is very very hard. A quick tip for any person that is interested against that matchup: again, still very hard. One of the best ways to win is they like cut their life in half, and then you Shallow Grave and Archon, and you just do 12 damage in the next turn as their shields are down after Doomsday. It's very, I've done it many many times, and it's probably the best way I found to kind of deal with that. And then the last one is, and I've lost against this unfortunately too many times, and I need to start respecting it. Shout out to Colton. He is the pioneer of Kansas for this deck, and that's Storm, or the the test decks. So why is it hard? Is they can go off as fast as I can, and they I just have to deal with it. If it's play versus draw, 9 times out of 10 they're probably going to beat me. And then again, if you're playing against a very very strong player, they're going to dodge all of my artifact hate, which just happened to me last Friday. So it's tough, but it's still doable. I would say even then, it's like maybe a 40-50% win rate. Like, it's still good. It's still fine. It's not like a 20%er or anything like that. But something I would just prefer not to go against.
No, that makes sense. Like a stack based combo, is able to win pretty quickly on their turn. They kind of don't care if you have a monster in play or not. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I would understand as well. Like, if I was a show and tell player and I got to watch my Emrakul smack me in the face, I'd be pretty upset too. So I definitely I definitely get that.
And you know what? You know what? I think what's that? We're going to do more of these deck techs. The next one I would love to have on is if you are a Doomsday player or a test player, I want to bring you on. I want to learn everything about that matchup because I do not know how to board against you. I want to pick your brain apart, and I need to improve. So please reach out if you are one of those Doomsday expert or the test experts. I need you.
Yeah, it sounds good, man. I mean, I could definitely learn how to handle those matchups as well. As a Death and Taxes main, they're definitely not the matchups I'm looking for either. So, all right. Well, before we kind of start to wrap up, I had two, I guess, kind of follow up questions. So the first question that I have is, why did you end up kind of focusing on Reanimator? So you said like, and again, I know you're a very analytical guy. You think through a lot of decisions and like, so what was it about Reanimator that kind of drew you
Sure.
to this deck in the beginning?
So I think for me personally, I was just introduced to Legacy about 2.5 years ago. Again, Rami, thank you for kind of he was the father of Legacy back in Ohio. He introduced us to Legacy, and I tried Death and Taxes, wasn't good at it, had a great time, but like I was losing a lot, and I'm a very competitive person. So I switched to Miracles, was losing a lot. And against better players. Like people were just better than me, and I respect that. I was like, hey, I know you're better. How can I just beat? How do I beat these other players? And then I was like, wait, if I just do these cheating things, I just cheat this big creature in. No matter like how good somebody is, sometimes you just win. And I really enjoyed where like I can go against the best of the best, and sometimes literally just fall on my face and win, and I love it. Like and yeah, that's why I love like new players getting into Legacy. I think it's a great deck to start out because on average you're probably going to go like 2-3-3-2 because your deck just does all the work for you and you can play blindfolded. It is so fun to get into.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads into the other question I had. And I think when I was first getting into Legacy and I was trying to figure out a deck that I wanted to play, I would always love to have conversations with players of like trying to understand the play styles of certain decks and the play styles that kind of resonated with me. Like, what do I want out of the decks that I'm going to be piloting? And so I'd be interested to kind of hear like, are there certain play style characteristics that you would recommend picking this up? So I know one of the conversations that we've had about this is you love this specifically for a longer
Oh
tournament
yeah.
type run, right? And I love to hear like the way that you've explained that. I think is really awesome. So I don't want to step on your toes. So
No, no.
who are the people or like the play style or and again, it could just be like you said, it's a competitive person. It's like I want to be able to throw a giant monster at someone. So what's your take on the play style and who would this deck is for?
Sure. So to highlight your one point, I think the best time to play this deck is for a very long tournament. So this is Eternal Weekend, or if you go to a large, 7+ round event. And the reason I say that is the Reanimator has about five. There's five really important turns, and you can focus really hard, and the match is over generally within the first 20 minutes. Win or lose, it's over fast. And when you're again going these long tournaments, it's exhausting. If you've never done it, definitely try it. It's like a marathon by the end, and your brain is mush, and you want to make as little decisions as possible. If you're playing a Delver deck, right, you have to think every single ponder. You have to think every single brainstorm. You have to think of everything. Every turn, you have so many decisions, and the game goes a lot longer. And like I said, it's very fun. It's probably very good for an FNM. But what happens is, like, if you're not ready for it, your endurance is going to go, to crap, and then you're not going to do as well. And I have a perfect example. This is at Eternal Weekend last year. I went against the Anadu deck. Again, Nadu was a phenomenal deck last year, insanely good. It was really taxing on the brain. And my opponent, this is the last round of day one. He had me dead to rights. He had the full combo going. And I kept slowly tapping my mana just to like give him that little he has to think about something, kind of get him off his gist. And then he's like, all right. And then start doing his last few cards, and he's like, I messed up. scooped up all his cards and then left. And like his friend's like, "What happened?" He's like, "I messed up. I did the cards wrong." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" After all these hours, it was like a massive
Oh
end of
my
the day. I
goodness.
was because he was just exhausted. When you're that exhausted, you start making these little mistakes, and that's where I
Mhm.
had that slight advantage of how hard is it to put a creature in the graveyard? Like it's not that hard. So I definitely recommend that.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that take, man. Like, I love the saying, like, hey, if I dark ritual into Doomsday and you force it, and I lose that way. Like, I'd rather lose that way than to, ponder, brainstorm, play a Delver, like, make 50 decisions to find out that I made the wrong decision
Yeah,
30
one of
decisions
your
ago,
brainstorms, you
right?
put the wrong card in. You're like, "Oh, I
Exactly. And you're
messed up
like
because of
that
that."
yeah, exactly. So like the concept of, the keeping the decisions to few but very crucial decisions versus the thousands of smaller decisions that you kind of get to leverage your play skill over the course of the match, which again, like makes sense if you're an amazing Delver player and that you get to outplay your opponent and show everybody how smart you are. Like that's
Yeah,
awesome. Like
I totally respect Delver players. Like, you are better Magic the Gathering players than me, 100%. I just like to cheat stuff in and hope it works out.
No, I mean, hey, Delver is definitely challenging, and that's yeah, why you will not see me pondering all that often. And I also liked the other take that you had. I just want to kind of reiterate this of why you want to pick up a deck is kind of like the generic power level of the deck and this concept of sometimes you just get a free win. Like it's
Oh,
nice to
yeah.
be able to have a deck that is, you didn't play it optimally, but it's still such a powerful deck that it can kind of get you there. Or your matchup is that something like a show and tell, you're just gonna get a free. It's potentially a buy. It's a free win. Or if you're playing me running white creatures, you know what I mean. Like it's a very good matchup for you. Which again, comparing it to Delver is like the way that I've heard it understood is that Delver is like a 45 to 55% matchup across the board, right? Like
Right.
you're never, you don't have terrible matchups and you don't have amazing matchups. You get to leverage your skill, right? So you're getting very few free wins that way. So I think it's kind of cool just to say like, hey, are you someone that wants to be able to say, hey, I got kind of lucky and I got a free win. I surveilled a fatty into the graveyard with a
Yeah,
reanimate in hand.
surveillance, big buff.
Exactly, right? So is that what you want, or are you somebody that's gonna like have to make all the thousands of decisions? And I think those are really important things when trying to figure out if this deck is right for you. But I to me, it sounds like a great deck to pick up, especially like new player, experienced player. You get to leverage a lot of that skill too, which any combo deck it's kind of cool because does a really powerful thing. But if you are a master of a combo deck, you know how to beat the people trying to beat you, which I think is really neat. Anyway, Adam, thank you for kind of giving us the rundown of Reanimator and just kind of its power and then how to beat it, right? So we all get to, I don't know, I guess challenge you a little bit and probably make you a better Reanimator player so that come EW this year, we'll be seeing you with
Yeah, you'll see
a
me at EW if the listeners are ever interested. You'll see me, trying to reanimate some stuff. It's gonna be a
yeah,
lot of fun.
with a first place card this time. So
We'll see. We'll try. We'll try.
anyway,
All right.
everybody, thank you guys so much for listening. Again, feel free to reach out with any emails or filthy casual questions, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.
I'm taking you out of the scrubble.